Hey guys, for this video I'll be talking about combat stats for Deadeye specifically. There's a few, what is it called? Few builds that you can do. Uh, I'll talk about the pros and cons of each one and which one I would recommend and the one that I'm going myself. And also talk about spare absorption on Deadeye. Yeah, so the build I'm running right now is full spec and a crit necklace. So spec crit necklace, something like that. I actually have something here. Yeah, so this is a build that I'm going. 1500 spec is the highest you can reach right now with accessory. So this is not accounting for the pet buff or the stats that you have. So like, what is this called? Permanent increase by potion or roster level rewards, permanent increase by total books bonus. So I think that's skills. I mean card books. So this is just a stat that you can get from accessories. So this build where you go full spec and a spec crit necklace in theory is the highest DPS ceiling. That's a pro, right? I mean, the con is really obvious as you don't have any swiftness. So it'll be harder for you to land back attacks because you have a slower movement speed and attack speed. Attack speed and movement speed. So movement speed is easy. You just move faster. Attack speed actually affects the speed in which you dash. So all of your skills that dash. If you have a... Yeah, some... Wait... Oh yeah, if you have swiftness, let's say 500, your dashes are going to be faster as well, right? So it'll be harder for you to position around the boss. Not only that, your DPS skills are going to have a faster casting time. So like this is no swiftness, I think. Yeah, no swiftness. It's like this. This is with a purple Gilwind, but if we have swiftness, it's noticeably faster, right? Yeah, so you need it'll take you longer for you to finish all of your skills in like a opening, like a DPS period for the boss, right? So this build is, I mean, this isn't really a con, it's just really heavily skill dependent and team comp dependent. Because you need a team that gives you a lot of attack speed and synergy. So something like a Bard and a Deathblade, right? And even a Paladin, right? It's also a support, one of the two supports in the game. It doesn't give you enough attack speed for it to feel smooth. It actually still feels kind of clunky, right? So, I mean, I know the supports don't have their set yet. I'm sure it'll feel better after that. But as of right now, this build feels somewhat clunky to play if you don't have a good team comp. And it's really skill dependent because you have a harder time to position. Yeah. The second build that a lot of people would usually go for is 1500 spec, so full spec, and then 500 swiftness. So how you get this is instead of going for a crit spec necklace, you go for a spec swiftness necklace, which is, yeah, it's just, you're just switching the necklace, right? The pros is obvious. It's much more fluid to play than zero swiftness because you have 500 now. It's easier. You have an easier time to land back attacks, and your combos are faster, so you will need less time to DPS to get all of your DPS out, your damage out. So you have in some way a higher DPS, right? Not really, but you know, it's just less time that you need to DPS. Con, lower DPS ceiling, that's obvious because you're losing 500 crit stat, which is around how much? I have perfect 500, which is around 18%, right? So that's a like a big chunk of crit that you're missing. This is not that good because Deadeye has high crit damage. Crit damage and crit rate is very different. It's two different things. I'm sure most of you guys know this, but I'll just explain it just in case some people don't. So let's say the back attack set called Earth Entropy. You get, it says here, the two set bonuses. Crit damage plus 17%, modified to 55 if it's a back attack or a head attack. So this is 55 crit damage, not crit rate. So what that means is when you crit, let's say everybody's crit damage starts at 200. So what that means is your normal damage is 100. When you crit, you do 200. What this 55 means is your crit damage do 255% damage. So this is not the only source. You also have Keen Blunt, and your Spec gives your handgun crit damage a huge boost as well. It's actually 165% crit damage. So yeah, so you have a lot of crit damage in your kit. Actually, I can show this if I summon the boss. Oh, that's a real one. So if my quick shot, it didn't crit, it only did, what is that, 1 million? Now if I crit, it does 4 million. Oh, why did it only do 4 million? Oh, it's because, wait, why did it only do 4 million? Huh? Oh, it's probably because Keen Blunt didn't proc. Or Keen Blunt's is damage reduction, so if it crits, it does around 5 million, right? So it's like a 500% difference for your handgun skills. So crit chance is really efficient, but if you're doing this, you're basically not using one of the efficient stats for the character. So what I recommend is something like this. I've been doing a little bit of testing and some math. You can do the math yourself too, it's not that complicated, but high spec, a spec is diminishing return, right? So from 0 to 100 gives you way more damage than from 1300 to 1400, right? Even though it's 100 points increase in spec, you get a lot less damage increase overall. So moving 200, so you can have 1500 max on spec. If you move 200 from spec to crit, you actually do more than having all of it on spec alone. Yeah. This is primarily due to you having really high crit damage, right? Yeah. So the reason why I recommend this build is because although it still has a lower DPS ceiling than 500 crit and 500 spec, you have some sort of swiftness. It'll help you position better, and it's in general more consistent, right? Because it'll be less team comp reliant as you have 500 swift, and the boss. If a boss moves around a lot, and you don't have any swiftness, it'll be really hard to position, right? So although this will do less damage on the target dummy, like this guy that's not moving, I think it'll perform more consistently and you have an easier time in like a harder raid that moves around a lot. Right, so this is the build that I might be switching to, something like that. So how you do this is, so 200 crit is basically a ring. You don't want to move earrings because that's too much spec, and if you move around too much spec, it's not as efficient as a little bit. I mean, it's hard to explain, but if you do the math, it's better if you move a ring. So a ring is around 200 at 100 quality. Right now I'm at 77, so it's like 191 spec. So you have around, it's like 200 crit, right? You move it here, this feels better, I think. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of testing. Yeah. Yeah. What else? Yeah, don't go spare absorption. Um, if you're running this and you feel like you're too slow, you want to say, "Oh, I want to go spare absorption." That's not good because you're placing most likely curse stall. Curse stall is the least efficient engraving on Deadeye. It's less efficient than adrenaline, right? So it's the worst one on Deadeye. You replace curse stall with spare absorption, so you're losing 16% damage, and somewhere around 16%, right? Uh, and then it'll be more efficient if you just do something like have 500 swift. Because if we pull it up here, spare absorption, 15% attack speed and movement speed. That's it. So no damage increase is only quality of life. You can kind of argue that you can fit more attacks in, but that's like very that's just some niche situations. For like very specific situations, right? But swiftness, on the other hand, is actually it gives you not only attack speed and movement speed, it also gives you skill cooldown, right? And having somewhere around 500 swiftness, I'll give you a 10% cooldown, which is pretty huge. Um, in DPS, in theory, if you can use all of your skills on cooldown, so uh, in practice, it's actually not that much of a difference, but in theory, you can use your skills like 11% more, somewhere around that. So it's like 11% damage increase if you're spamming all of your skills on cooldown, right? But that's not really gonna happen in a real fight, so uh, it's still better than spare absorption because you're not losing 16% damage. Um, and if you're going something that already has swiftness in it and you still feel the need to go spare absorption, I mean, sure you can go for it, but uh, uh, spare absorption basically means that you're missing an engraving compared to other people. So if you're 5-3, it's like 4-3. So don't expect getting MVPs at all. Yeah. Okay, that's it. Hope you liked the video. Have a good day.